Hi, Year Threes. So we're going to carry on looking at plants this week in our science, and we've got a really nice task for you today, so hopefully you really enjoy it. So you will have looked in Key Stage 1, so when you're in Year 1 and Year 2, at the different parts of a plant. But now we're in Year 3, we're going to take a really close look at plants to really closely look at these parts. So you may have seen a diagram like this before, you might have even labelled one yourself for the parts of a plant. So we've got the roots at the bottom, usually under the ground, and then the leaves, we've got the stem, and at the top there's a flower, not on every part but a plant, but on some plants. So although all plants have these parts, they all look slightly different. So if you take a look at the pictures on this page, you can see all these plants have leaves, they all have stems, they all have roots, some of them have flowers, but they all do look very different. So I want you to have a little think about what's the same and what's different about these plants. Perhaps you have some plants at home that you could look at too. So you might want to just pause the video for a second and have a look at all these different plants. Now, your task today is going to be to study every detail of one of the plants that's in this PowerPoint later on. And we want you to look at it really carefully so that you can draw it accurately. So we don't just want you to draw a straight stem with some couple of roots sticking off the bottom and some kind of pointy shaped leaves off the side, unless your plant actually looks like that. So we want you to look at the size, the shape and the colour of the leaves and the way the stem divides up. So usually there's not just one stem in the middle, there's lots of smaller bits of the stem. And we also want you to look at the texture and the colour of the roots, because the roots quite often have really small hairs on them, which if you look really closely you can see. So on this page you can see a plant and a drawing that's been done of it. Now here are a few tips to help you to draw your plant really accurately. So I want you to begin by looking at the shape of the stem and the way that it divides. So this plant, as you can see, the stem divides off as it gets nearer the top into smaller pieces. I'm going to start by drawing it as a single line, and then you can go back later and you can thicken each line. So it might be a little bit thicker towards the bottom, and as the plant gets towards the top, perhaps the stem gets a little bit thinner. Then we want you to look at the roots and add lines to show the colour and the texture and the shape of them. And as I mentioned before, you might be able to zoom into the image you've chosen on your tablet or laptop to see any tiny little features of the plant, like the hairs on the roots. So once you've drawn your stem and your roots, we want you to add the leaves. So as I mentioned earlier, they need to be the same shape leaves that are actually on the plant that you've chosen. So they might not be pointy, they might be really small, they might be slightly bigger, they might be long and thin. You need to look at them really carefully. Check the leaves that you're drawing on your plant are the right size and the right shape and the right colour. And you can blend colours together to make the shade that you can see. So if you use coloured pencils for this task rather than the felt tips, you'll be able to maybe choose 2 different shades of green to colour in your leaves. So if your plant is a really light green, try to find a light green pencil if you can. Don't panic if you've not got too many colours at home. You'll find if you press a little bit lighter with your pencil, you'll be able to create a slightly lighter shade. And then if you press it a little bit harder, you'll be able to create a shade that's a bit darker. So have a go at experimenting with that. So you can choose whether you draw your chosen plant onto white paper, which hopefully most of you have got some at home. If you haven't got any plain white paper, then you can do it into your book that we gave you from school. Doesn't matter if it's got the lines on. If you've got other resources at home, you might like to draw your plant onto coloured paper, and this can give your drawing a really strong, vibrant feel. So you need to test a little bit to see if your pencils work on your coloured paper, and you might like to experiment a little bit like with that. So black or brown or grey paper might work really well with the plant that you've chosen. But as I say, white paper is fine, so don't worry too much. Now, if you look really carefully, you can see that the stems, roots and leaves are made of lots of different shades. So these pictures here show you, particularly the one in the middle, how you can use different shades of the same colour, so greens or browns maybe, to create the shades in your leaves and in your stem and in your roots. So here's another little example just to show you how you can blend your colours together. Now, once your drawing is finished, we want you to write some notes around it about the stem and about the roots and the leaves and flowers if your plant has flowers. I want you to describe each part. So for example, this plant on here, the label about the roots says this root is long and thick. It has some small root hairs coming off of it. So we don't just want a label that says root, we want you to try and describe what the roots of your chosen plant look like. Okay, so what shape and colour are the leaves? What does the stem look like? And use a ruler to draw a really neat line from the part of the plant that your notes are about to your actual note, and try and keep your handwriting really neat because we don't want to spoil your beautiful drawings that you're going to have done. So if you've chosen to use a different colour of paper, your pencil might not be able to write very easily on it. So the best thing to do is to write your notes onto pieces of white paper, cut them out, and then stick them down with glue just so they're really clear. So you need to choose one of the plants from the following slides. There's 6 to choose from to draw and label. So you don't need to do all of them. Just pick the one that you are most inspired by. If you want to go back through this video, you can do that to stop at any of the pages, maybe about blending or how to add detail, and you can pause at any of them to do that. Once you've chosen your picture, you can pause at that part of the video as well, and then you can watch it and observe it really carefully. So I hope you have a nice time, and we can't wait to see your finished pictures.